Well, hello. Another episode from Cape Town. I am doing this in front of that mountain because I love that mountain. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the experiences I've been having here. I went back with my family, with my mom and my cousin, to go visit Mossel Bay. And Mossel Bay is where I spent a portion of my sort of preteens and teenage time with my grandparents. I was going to school in Johannesburg, and I would go backwards and forwards and then I was in university at Wits, and I would go backwards and forwards from Johannesburg to Mossel Bay to visit my parents, or when my grandfather passed away, I would go and take care of the house so my grandmother could go do stuff in Johannesburg. It was a really interesting experience for me. So there are these mountains. I forgot the name of the range, but there are these mountains that you can see outside of the windows of where we used to live. And my grandfather's office, the windows looked out on those mountains, and he loved them. He would look at them every morning. He was a very religious man. He would, meditate or praise every single morning. He got up at like 5 or 4 or something. He would pray and meditate every single morning and stare at those mountains. And so my grandfather, just to give you context, was a very important figure in my life. I had my biological dad, who I only met when I was 18 for the first time. That was weird. I'd had a sort of stepfather around about the age of from 2 to 4, extremely abusive. And then my third father, his name was Antonio. He married my mom when I was around 4, and he adopted me. So there was a lot of instability in terms of the male figures in my life. My grandfather was the constant. He created the first Afrikaans language advertising agency in South Africa. He was a very respected man. There's a lot more I can get into at some point about him. Really amazing man. So when he passed away in 1980, it was devastating to me. And I remember sitting in his office staring at those mountains and thinking about him, his soul, I suppose, going across the ocean towards the mountains, the view he loved. I would think about that a lot. I would think about where his soul went, and was that, I suppose as a 15-year-old, I was thinking, well, maybe that's where his soul went, across the mountains. So that view is very important to me. So I rented a small Airbnb that was literally below the street where we used to live, and had a view of the mountains. And early in the morning, I would get up and I would stare at the mountains, and I would sort of take myself back to the time that my grandfather was alive. And I was thinking about that time a lot. And I had this awareness that was really interesting. See, a part of me was thinking, oh, I wish I could be back there, back in the 80s, back in that experience. And, I had all these memories. That house where I stayed with my grandparents was where I dreamed up a lot of my sort of film career. I would imagine a studio like above the house where I could shoot the surfers, and I just kept on imagining all this stuff. It was all the sort of beginning of my dreaming of that career. And I was staring at the mountains thinking, oh, to be back there, back in that time. But then I tried to take my nervous system back to that time, and I found that I couldn't, because my nervous system now, who I am now, is so dramatically different that I couldn't go back. I thought, well, that's interesting. Yeah, of course I can't go back because I'm such a different person. So I couldn't recapture that time back then. And then I also had this recognition, even if I could, would I want to? Because you know how sometimes we think about the past as better? I realized that in order for me to go back and inhabit that nervous system of a 15-year-old, I would have to give up everything that I'd accumulated. I'd have to give up the now, like all the wisdom that I now had, I would have to give up. I would erase that from myself. It would take something away from me. And I think it was the first time that I really had that thought with respect to that view. because I'd always dreamed one day I'm going to see that view again. Like one day I'm going to go to my grandparents' grave again. And there I was, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go back because it would erase from my life. It would take away from my life. And that was a really interesting thought to me because, as I said, we sometimes think about the past as being better. I don't think I would want to take anything away. Would I take stuff away from 15 onwards? No, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have all these incredible experiences I had. Yeah, I had some shitty experiences too, but that's part of what's defined me. My wisdom now, I love and adore. So that was interesting. That going back would mean losing so much. I'd have to erase massive parts of myself to live in that space again. Visiting my grandparents' grave was quite profound. And time is a weird thing because the last time I was there was sometime in the mid 80s. My grandfather died December 7th, 1980. And the funeral was not long after that. And going back to the gravesite, everything had changed. And I remember lying on the gravestone of my grandmother, lying on the gravestone of my grandfather, and just feeling their presence and their energy again. And the immense gratitude that I had for what they've given me in my life. My grandmother, incredible gentleness, beautiful sense of humor, love of animals. I mean, just such kindness. And my grandfather, like this rock, this steady rock that was always there, which as a child I really needed. So that was a pretty cool experience. Recorded my mom, my mom had a good cry. It was quite beautiful. And then the reason I'm doing this in front of that mountain is because I had been staring at it for a number of weeks now, looking at it going oh, I love that mountain. I love that mountain. I used to climb that mountain. I used to climb that mountain. So yeah, I used to live at the base of the mountain, somewhere down there behind, you can't see it, but somewhere behind here. And every Sunday, I used to go to the Deer Park parking lot, just a little bit above where I lived, and I used to climb the mountain. And it took me around about 3 hours. Now, I was 20, I don't know, what was I? 23, 24. It wasn't that hard. I mean, it was hard, but it wasn't that hard. I remember the last part where you had to scramble was very difficult. And I always thought to myself, oh, one day it'd be good to go back. But then I looked at the mountain, I looked at how high it was. I'm like, you know what? I'm 60 now. That's not going to happen. So I kept on staring at it thinking, yeah, but what if I could? What would it be like to be able to climb that mountain again? Because I had profound experiences in the city. A lot of my sort of early, not early because I had much earlier experiences, but a lot of my sort of awakening, my spiritual awakening stuff in my 20s happened in the city. There's something about Cape Town. It has a very motherly, maternal quality to it. The energy of these mountains, that's Table Mountain, and then just over here off camera is Lion's Head, and then Signal Hill in front of me. And then behind that mountain on the 12 Apostles over Camps Bay, there's a very beautiful energy about the city. Very, very soft, very, very gentle. So I would climb the mountain and I would go listen to channeled tapes of stuff. I think at that point it was Lazarus. There was a guy, Jack somebody, who channeled Lazarus. I would go climb the mountain 3 hours and sit up there and listen to channeled stuff and read books and stuff like that. So very meaningful to me. And then the other day I thought to myself, this business of oh, I can't do it now. What if that's just it's bullshit? What if I just go, just do it? So I made the decision and I set out early yesterday morning. I parked at a parking lot slightly above where I used to park because I thought, well, this is not going to be quite as hard. And I figured, hour and a half. Yeah, 2.5 hours to get to the top. So that's the bottom. That's where I have to get to. No biggie. Super easy. Fucking hell. This is much easier in my 20s. What the So the question is, if I could magically beam myself up to the top of the mountain, would I? Should I? Well, I don't know that's a should necessarily, but like, would I know? Because if I magically did it now, I'd feel a certain way. But if I got up there, I'd feel a whole different way. That's why sometimes shortcuts, I don't know, you miss the journey. Fuck me, it's beautiful up here. I forgot how fucking amazing it is up here in the mountain. I recorded a bunch of stuff of myself going up and swearing and huffing and puffing. And the thing that was interesting is I was wondering, once I got to the top, which was absolutely incredible, I thought to myself, like, how did I do it? Like, did I look for inspiration on the way? And like, I didn't. I think what happened is I made the decision. I don't know if I made the decision the morning I got up or if I made the decision when I got to the parking lot. I made the decision that is what I was going to do. It wasn't like I'll see if. It was a very clear decision. And that's kind of how it feels in my body. When I make decisions, and I'm a stubborn motherfucker. When I make a decision, that's what I'm going to do. No matter what. Now, I will admit at a certain point, 2/3 up, I thought to myself, like, am I going to have a heart attack up here? Fuck, I can't even breathe. And then I started feeling pretty ill the last quarter. like I was going to throw up and like dizzy and lightheaded. And I thought, that's fine. Just keep on going. So I used like brute strength and just will to continue to keep going. It helped that there was some people at the end that were like, we were all rallying for each other. But I thought it was interesting that no matter how difficult it was, I didn't resist the pain, and it did get very painful at the end. My legs were not working well. I was quivering. I made the decision to not resist it. You know how I think it's the Navy SEALs talk about embrace the suck? I decided to embrace the suck and like enjoy the suck and enjoy the pain. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is seemingly insane. And I did have a point. I started recording stuff like, what was I thinking? My God. I mean, I'm not super fit. I'm not super unfit. I'm like, maybe I'm fitter than maybe most 60-year-olds, but after everything I've been through in my life, I hadn't got my discipline and fitness back to the level it can be. Maybe if I do that every week, it'll help. But there was something about just embracing the experience of just going and going and going and going. By the way, the sun's coming out now, which is very beautiful. That was quite remarkable. And stopping every now and again to like look at the view. And I was just really interested in the process of how it happened. Almost there. Almost there. Just up through there. And then I'm at the top. I think I decided before I began that it was a done deal. And I wonder if that's maybe a useful thing to do. The whole thing of like starting something and going like, and then you go like, I don't know. That's one way to do it. And we have these vacillations, but like, good Lord, that's getting bright. Let me see if I can just dim this down a bit. We have these sort of vacillations. That's one way to do it. But then the other way to do it is just, it's done. Like it's already done. At some point, I'm on top of that mountain. At some point, I'm looking down, feeling proud of myself. At some point, I'm enjoying the view. I'm not going to stay stuck in that future, but like it's going to happen. And there was a certain certainty about that. This is the end, my friends. The final stretch. Almost there. Almost there. I made it to the top. And as I remember, it is beyond spectacular. It is the most remarkable view. The only problem is my legs are not operating properly anymore. They feel like they're on somebody else's body. Every time I get to the top, I am so grateful that I went through everything to get here. Fucking what a magical experience every single fucking time. Good Lord. So, just want to offer that piece of advice for stuff in general. There is something to be said for, you think about the thing, it's insane. Because before I got up there, I was like, this is insane. I'm not that I'm not fit enough. I'm fucking 60 now. Like, I'm not 24 anymore, 23, whatever it was when I did it all the time. But there's something about just making the decision and then just go. I think what we do sometimes is we think we have to be ready, you know? And I keep on adjusting the exposure here. I'm not sure that that's the way to go. Waiting to be ready. I've seen many times in my life, an opportunity arises, I don't feel ready, and I go, great, I'll say yes. And then in between that saying yes, and then when I have to do the thing, I do everything I can to get ready, but I never feel ready. So I just go for it. And in the process of doing the thing, then I'm like, oh, well, I get to the top. Now I'm ready. So yeah, just some thoughts there. Just say yes. Just say yes. Just go for it. You're never ready. Ever. Don't let the mind play tricks on you. Just say yes, figure it out, go for it. Because in the end, if you do that, you're going to get a lot more than you would have gotten if you just negotiated those thoughts to death, if you know what I mean. So my time in Cape Town is drawing to a close. It's been absolutely astonishing. Beautiful memories, but I'm not the same person anymore, I can't recapture those moments exactly. I can't go back and be in that nervous system. I am a very different person, and I have grown from the foundations that I built in places like Cape Town. So those are my thoughts for today. I highly recommend, if you can ever make it to Cape Town, do come. It is a remarkable city. We'll talk soon.